guest in this episode of Candid in Crimson is a woman that exudes unparalleled courage and charm. She is by far one of the most prominent movers and shakers, known for her humanitarian contributions as she leads the Self Employed Women's Association, also known as SEWA, as its president. SEWA has to its credit some staggering statistics as it empowers over 2 million women, not only in India, but across the borders in Afghanistan, Bhutan, and Sri Lanka. These women may be artisans, salt pan workers, farmers, laborers, and she has made efforts over 35 years to enable their skills into a mean of stable livelihood, transforming and touching scores of lives and communities across. In 2013, the Government of India honored her with the fourth highest civilian award, the Padma Shri. It is my distinct pleasure to invite Mrs. Reema Nanavati, fondly known as Reema Ben, to Candid in Crimson. Mrs. Reema, thank you so much for your time. We are absolutely delighted to have you here with us. Mrs. Reema, you've had an incredibly inspiring story. I understand you were selected to join the Indian Administrative Services and you consciously took a call to dedicate your life as a full-time social worker with the SEWA. What prompted you at that age, to make that choice? Obviously, this journey would have been extremely arduous all along. So what have been those learnings as you've come along this way?
Thank you so much. And first of all, let me tell you that it is such an honor and privilege to be talking to you and sharing the experiences, some of the life-changing experiences that I have had, working with the members of SEWA, whom we at SEWA call them as the wheels of the pyramid. They are what is it that makes SEWA what SEWA is today. And I think I'm so very grateful to those members of SEWA who have put so much of trust and faith in, workers like me and given an opportunity to serve them. So as you said that, like many of us, what happens is that you're always born and brought up in a city and that's what your surroundings, the city life, and that's what you understand what India is. And that was what my whole experience also was growing up. Of course, my mother's father, my maternal grandfather, was the General Secretary of the Textile Labor Association, from where SEWA was founded way back in 1972 by our founder, Ela Ben-Gott. So that way you knew something about the labor movement, about the union movement, about the history, but not really having taken a deep dive into that, or not even having had dreamt that you would one day end up also working in the labor movement. But while I was preparing, for the civil services, I also came across editorial on the waste collectors that SEWA was organizing in the city of Ahmedabad. And I thought that, oh, well, I live in the same city and I should really understand more about the lives of these waste collectors. And that's when I wrote to SEWA. Like what happens to in many organizations. I did not hear for a long time, but then received an interview call letter. And I thought, anyway, still this was an opportunity for me to really visit SEWA and learn about it. And so I went and appeared for the interview. And my family was like stunned that, why am I going for an interview to SEWA when I am supposed to be going for the trainings? And I thought that, I'm just going there to see what SEWA is, to learn about SEWA. And that gave me an opportunity to spend a whole day at SEWA. And groups of women would come. There would be a meeting that would happen. And then the group will leave. And then after some time, another group would come. And the whole day I was just sitting there seeing this happening. And then I, around late afternoon, I said, I'm here for the interview because I have this call letter. And then, senior coordinators of Seva interviewed me, and 2 days later they said that if I can come and work at Seva. I was like, uh, in a real dilemma, because on the one hand I was getting a very good exposure, but on the other hand, I was also supposed to go for the trainings. And that was the year when Gujarat was experiencing 3 successive drought years. And Seva was working on the government drought relief programs. So I was offered to come and work on those drought relief programs. Now, what happens to a lot of urban children, I never had any rural exposure, nor did I know what real drought means. And so I started going and working with the team. So every morning we would leave at 5:30, go to the villages where the drought work was going on, and then come back when the drought relief work ends. But I saw in that process that the government drought relief work ends at 5:30, but the women would still not go home. They would go to another place and continue digging. So on the third day, I went and saw that what are these women digging? And there was an old woman who told me that, they are digging grass tubers. That was the only meal they would have. If they did not dig this, they wouldn't have no meal. And I think that was my very first encounter of life to what real poverty means and what drudgery actually means. And I think that was my very first life changing experience. And this is what I learned at Seva. They don't preach you what are the Gandhian values and principles, but you experience it yourself, and that makes you realize and understand that why even today the Gandhian values of simplicity, of non-violence, of truth, of respect to all religion, why does it hold so much of value and so much of significance? And I think that made me realize that if I worked here at Seva, that would make me see that what are the real needs of the poor of our country, how can one really make a difference in their lives. And that's where I am today, still continuing working at Seva. And I started my career working in the rural wing of Seva, when in the villages of Ahmedabad district. And today I am so very fortunate to oversee the entire rural organizing and economic development at Seva. And as you know, that in a country like ours, where there's surplus of labor and less of employment opportunities, if you really want to increase the collective strength of the rural women, if you really want to make them feel empowered, one has to create alternative economic opportunities. And how do you do that? That was the challenge ahead of me at Seva. And what I learned was that either you build economic initiatives based on the local skill base that the women have, or on the local resources. So today we have close to, you know, almost 4,000 self-help groups, over 110 different cooperatives of women. We have federations and associations. And then moving forward, we now have for-profit companies also of the women, and also non-profit companies. Because at Seva, we very strongly believe that the women should not just remain workers or producers, but they should also become the owners and managers of their own enterprises and of their own trades. And also that, we at Seva come together as women, as poor, and as workers, no matter what caste, community, or religion we belong to. And by building their collective strength, we equip and enable the women in their fight against poverty, so that women can earn, dignified life, dignified work, and they are no longer vulnerable or have become victims of starvation. So that is what my journey has been so far.
Thank you, Mrs. Rima. I think just hearing you speak of the insurmountable odds some of these women have had to overcome, and the beauty and the scale with which actually Seva has envisioned this entire ecosystem, right? It's just brought in so much perspective, even though I know I'm just hearing glimpses of what that journey might have been. Mrs. Rima, you've often spoken about technology being an enabler to scale. I know that initiatives within Seva are also spanning from rehabilitation, rural distribution, vocational trainings, digital literacy adoption. What is your perspective on how technology can truly democratize opportunities of work, employment, and growth?
You asked a very relevant and a pertinent question. At Seva, we always believe that when you put technology into the hands of the women, they know how best to put it to their use in order to either reduce their drudgery or in order to increase the efficiency in the work that they are doing. And that's why we call it as Vigyan Seva, or the School of Science and Technology for Women. And two-thirds of our members are rural, and out of that also 54% are small farmers or agriculture workers. And the challenge ahead of us was that why does a farmer remain hungry in spite of putting in so much of hard work? And that's where we set up Rudy, which is an agribusiness supply chain of these small farmers. Today, some 25,000 such women small farmers, and this is on a hub and spoke model. So we would procure from these women farmers, grade it, process it, package it, and redistribute it by building a cadre of saleswomen called the Rudy Bens. And so, the farmers get fair returns, and the Rudy Bens, who are the landless agriculture laborers, also have, secured livelihoods. But then the challenge was that how do you keep track of your inventory and of your sales, so that when the Rudy Ben wants something, you are not in a situation that, oh well, there's no inventory of chili powder now, or there's no inventory of green gram now. And so that was where we brought in the digital technology, the mobile applications. And we wanted to break that myth that so what if they are rural women, if they are illiterate women, if they are poor women, they can still use the digital technology. And I'm so grateful for our partnership with the Vodafone Idea Foundation, that they came forward, and I think we designed a whole mobile based ERP system where each Rudy Ben is armed with a smartphone, and she has a mobile application. So as she sells, she enters into that application that she has sold 500 grams of chili powder and 100 grams of turmeric powder and 1 kg of rice and whatever. And so that way today there are these 4,500 Rudy Bens who are on a real time entering their sales, and that helps us keep track of the inventory management, the procurement that we have to do. And that's how you maintain your cash flow, so that you are neither in a situation where you have a pile up of inventory and your cash is blocked. And the Rudy Bens are able to satisfy their customers because they are able to provide them as and when they need the produce at affordable rates. So the Rudy Bens are happy that their sales are increasing, and so their incomes are increasing. Today a Rudy Ben earns anywhere between 5,000 rupees to 20,000 rupees. And once she masters the technology, there's no looking back. So let me give you an example of a Rudy Ben. She uses the mobile application called the Rudy Sandesha Vyavhar so seamlessly. And then she realized that, but I have to still move around taking the cash with me. So how do I now do a real-time cash transactions also? Or, when I go to sell something, the customer may not have cash on hand. And then I don't want to do credit sales because that's the principle she has used. And that's where she thought of having a mobile or a digital wallet. So she brought in M-Pesa and now Paytm, and that's integrated with the mobile application. So with that, she now not only is selling the Rudy products, but she helps the village people make payment for their electricity bills or for their LPG cylinders, or for paying to the medical bills, or paying, or withdrawing from the bank or depositing in the bank. And that's given her social status in the community has increased, and everybody looks up to her and is waiting for her. So I think that's the power of technology when you put it in the hands of the women. And today she is very proudly using a two-wheeler, a scooter, so that she can cover 5, 7, 10 villages. And that's how she's in the business terminologies, she's as good as a distributor.
Absolutely, absolutely. To imagine the proliferation of technology, as a way of means in perhaps the largest union of women workers, but in an informal setup, I think it's extremely encouraging to the possibilities of putting technology for good. Um, as we conclude this conversation, Mrs. Rima, Seva is not just an organization. It comes across as such a beautiful movement which has been growing at an exponential scale. I'm sure it requires leadership of team, mettle, grit, and grace. I wanted to hear your perspective and your advice to women who are trying to make their dent in their respective fields across a gamut of industries. What's your take, and what would you say to them?
As our members say in one sentence, if I have to say, it is we can and we will. So it's a matter that, we need to have confidence and courage that I can and I will, or we can and we will. Then I think there is no one and nothing that can stop us. So I think the time has come that women need to come forward to take leadership, be it in business, be it in corporate sector, be it in banking, finance, in health, everywhere. And I think women will make a better future and an economy which is a nurturing economy. Thank you.
Mrs. Rima. Such a beautiful thought. I am taking with me a plethora of learnings, but I think the one which really, really resonates with me is that there is so much truth when they say, you empower one woman, you're empowering an entire nation. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute privilege. Thank you once again. For those who are tuned in, we really hope you found it inspiring. We really look forward to catching you in the next one. Until then, thank you.